Lincoln White of FultonFishMarket.com. So Lincoln, and we were supposed to do this together in Vermont pre-COVID, and it's one of those things that I kept putting off, and now I regret so much putting it off. Because, I had pictured us with a little log cabin in the background with smoke coming out of a chimney in Vermont, drinking
the mountains and the lakes, right?
Yeah, drinking some of that Vermont craft beer. But, this is cool too, right? So we got our COVID norm now. So, yes, thank you so much, Lincoln. There's a lot I wanted to talk to you about, and you are literally gold for us in a sense that you're a great example of a CIO of a big business, a big company that's doing very well, that had some overseas resources and came back to North America. So for me, it's a fantastic opportunity to talk to you, and I really appreciate it. So can you tell me, first of all, for those that don't know, what is Fulton Fish Market?
Sure. So Fulton Fish Market is in New York City. It's a 200-year-old fish market. It's the largest seafood market in the world by assortment. So there's no place on a given night on the planet that you're going to go and see more different species of fish available for sale. And for most of the history of the market, it's been something that isn't necessarily easy and fun to get to. It's open between 1 in the morning and 7 in the morning. And what we're doing at FultonFishMarket.com is we've partnered with the market to be the exclusive online portal into that market. So restaurants, grocery stores, and consumers, instead of traveling into the city, going in at 3 a.m. to get the world's best fresh seafood, can shop that full assortment from our website.
Okay, so Fulton Fish Market has many different mini markets inside of it too, right? So there's many different businesses, and you are the online version of those markets, and you're able to source from all of the people that are on that fish market floor, correct?
That's right. So our founder, about 6 years ago, he worked in financial services and started as a side hustle, going into the market every night and buying some shellfish and fresh seafood to sell to restaurants in Manhattan.
You're kidding me.
And when his side hustle became more lucrative than working in financials, he went to the market and said, how come this isn't online? And they're like, that'll never work. The price changes too much. The assortment changes too much. To manage all that on a website, we've thought about it and there's no way to work. And he said, if I get some investors lined up, we could set up in the market. And just like you said, there's tons of purveyors in the market, dozens of them, families that have been in there and businesses that have been in there for generations. Could we partner with you to give you some percentage of our sales? And we get the exclusive right for decades, is what we negotiated, to be the online portal to that and open you up to the rest of the country and eventually the rest of the world. And his great idea, Jody Mead was the person who had this idea, has really taken off.
That is amazing. So FultonFishMarket.com started off as a side hustle. That is crazy. And so everyone was skeptical, right? No one believed that it could work. I guess there was also like, how do you get the fresh fish from the market floor to Boston, for example?
Yeah, there's been so many problems to solve, and you can understand why people thought it wasn't going to work. The technology of keeping a good track of what's available from the different providers and what their prices are and what we should be charging for that is one thing. And then to your point, taking responsibility for getting that out the door across the country. So we ship a lot, especially to consumers by FedEx and UPS overnight or 2-day, but we've had to get that packaging right to make sure, because we sell, unlike most of our competitors, we sell fresh seafood. So it's in fresh, for anybody who eats seafood, there's a whole difference between something that's a day or two out of the water and fresh versus been frozen, delivered to you frozen, thawed again. So we commit to getting it there fresh. And then for our business customers, we've got a same-day logistics network. So we're lucky because New York's got 3 airports that go direct flights all over the country. And we let restaurants order up to 1 a.m. and they will get that stuff shipped via airline and courier the same day. It'll get delivered to their restaurant the same day. So sometimes we see customers ordering by 1 a.m. Eastern, New York time, and we're delivering it to Vegas or Los Angeles before the afternoon West Coast time on flights and couriers. It's amazing.
That is incredible.
Yeah. And these are folks that used to have a buyer or a broker having to walk the market floor for them at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m.
Wow, there must have been a lot of challenges at the beginning to get that right. Because now I know for a fact that it's right from experience, that the system is down pat. But it must have been difficult at the beginning. Were you at what point did you personally get involved?
So I've been there over 2 years now, but I wasn't there at the beginning. This started about 6 years ago, and just, lots of learning, lots of ramping up, starting with B2B and then going to B2C, which is turning out to be a huge business line for us. And then some other business channels that are built on top of that we can talk about. So I've been here just over 2.5 years, and in that time, the growth has just continued and the problem solving has continued, and lots of software development and technology to support it all.
But that's amazing. So that a restaurant owner in Arizona or in Vegas, at, like, let's say midnight, so he knows what he consumed that night. He saw that he was busy or if he was quiet. And then so up to 1 a.m. he or she can order, and they have it that same afternoon is just incredible.
Yeah.
From Fulton Fish Market in New York.
Right. So, we attract like higher end restaurants that really have customers that want fresh. They don't want it trucked across by a food service 4 days across the country. And it helps them a lot with their inventory management, right? As you can imagine, managing inventory on fresh food is really tough. You can't run out, but you don't want to throw a bunch away. And we're a big part of solving that puzzle for them. They can see what they sold today and guess what they need on hand for the next day or two and order that from us, instead of trying to forecast with a truck that's coming across the country and only going to do a drop off once a week.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So when you arrived, it was only 2 years ago or 3 years ago, you said?
Yeah, so it's over 2 years ago. It's about 2.5 years.
Okay, so you came in as a CIO. And what did you see when you came in? I won't say if I'm not mistaken. I know for a fact that your development, your programming was all done overseas, right? In Eastern Europe? Is it Romania?
Yeah, that's right. So when I got here, obviously what we built was working because we were growing a lot with it. But all the development at the beginning of the project was done in Romania. And the thought there was a lot of cost savings. We could move very fast, and the mistakes that we might have made in guessing what we needed to build, we didn't have that team on staff that we had to worry about. So there was a lot of smart decisions made in building that Romanian team, but we had evolved by the time that I got here, and the Romanian team continued to do really good work for us. But the challenges that we were running into were time zone differences, some second language English differences, the fact that we couldn't communicate directly with team members. We had to go through that project manager who could do the translation for us. The fact that working with them, we didn't have full control of our development environments, our Git environments, our testing environments, our source code. We came to the conclusion that we had to speed up development and get higher quality development by building an in-house team with support from a partner that was in North America. There wasn't a language barrier. There wasn't a time zone difference. My first 6 to 12 months was exhausting because there's the whole workday of normal stuff to do. And then you're on the phone when they're working, trying to make sure that they got the information that they need. And that's a 7 to 8 hour time difference. And just the ability to interact more directly in real time on projects. We had gotten to the point where we had to have that.
Yeah, understood. I think also the major part is having control of the Git, having control of your code, your versions. That's like super, super important, right?
It was big for us. We had gotten beyond where, we could trust somebody else with that. The business had grown enough, and we saw the future of success that we were like, okay, we need to take ownership of this. We can't just be completely relying on somebody else for this now. And then find the right partners that can help us. And when we came to SimplyPHP, all the source code was in Romania, all the development environments were in Romania. So we needed more from SimplyPHP than just some developers. We needed people that had a lot of experience in those source code management tools and processes in that development lifecycle. What's that flow chart of how code's going to go from an idea in a business person's mind all the way through requirements, design, build, testing, into go live was a big part of what SimplyPHP helped us build, because we were still trying to build our internal team and didn't have all those answers and experience.
Yeah, that was amazing. And that was, but I think what also helped you had a good collaborative team in Romania, so you had a great relationship with them, and let's call that out. They weren't being difficult, and they understood too that you wanted to come back to North America.
Right.
But how did you look at it? Did you look at it and say, okay, if I can wave a magic wand, this is the type of setup that I would like to have? Did you have like carte blanche when it came to deciding how this was going to be done?
We had carte blanche in the decision making, but in the vision was, we control it. We manage this stuff through the development funnel, but we didn't have a clear picture of the specifics, the tactics, the exact thing we were going to do. So I remember when we first started talking to you and your team, some of us came to Montreal and we sat in a room for a whole day and flow charted out, what's that development process going to be step by step? And we got it half right the first time and more right the second time. And by the fourth or fifth time and close to the end of the day, we had something we were happy with. And then, your team, because you guys do development for so many clients and have a view of what's working best across all these different clients, said, and here's the tools in the process around those tools that you can map into that, whether it's Jira or Git, or building a dev and a staging and the peer review of code and and those steps to help us be really smart and achieve, it was a big bet for the business to say, hey, we're walking away from these Romanian partners that had really, for the most part, done a great job for us. And we're going to try something new because we think it can be even higher quality and faster. We had to prove that that was the case because it was more expensive from a dollar standpoint. The promise to the business was, yeah, you're going to spend more, but you're going to get all of that back and more in quality and in speed. And it felt like SimplyPHP really partnered with us to make sure we delivered on that promise that we made to them about that big change.
Yeah, I remember that. That was great. I think it was you and your colleague David drove up from Vermont, and we spent a couple of days together with I don't know, 3 or 4 different senior developers, and that was key. And I love seeing that come together because I know from experience of the past 10 years of hearing so many horror stories, not that you were going through a horror story, thankfully, but
Yep.
of, companies not having the proper version control in place and not having the proper, control of the access, and just really relying on another company to keep your doors open. So such a smart move. It was such a great transition as well, the way you did it systematically. And I remember that first push from our new stage to production, how happy everyone was. That was fantastic.
It was big when we did our first major deployment and everything had moved through and environments that we controlled and tools that we controlled and developers that were all stateside. That seems now like it was 10 years ago. It was just, a year and a half ago, but it was big.
Yeah, that's true. It was awesome. And I remember, I think you were even doing the testing at some point in the beginning.
I still am.
Man, I'm like the CIO is the tester.
I'm still doing a lot of testing. That's
yeah.
We've gotten better, and they've gotten smart. I mean, so much of this was knowledge transfer. How did our own systems work? Whether they're Magento customizations, or we have a whole huge customized backend order fulfillment system that's custom from the ground up. We had to get a lot smarter on just the user interaction of how the applications worked. And it required many of us, including myself, to take on a real hands-on, roll up the sleeves role in testing and understanding what the systems that we had asked someone else to build even did, because we were so used to calling them and saying, what do we have and how does what we have work? So there was a lot of learning there and a lot of responsibility to take on there.
Yeah, for sure. And startups, that's the nature of a startup, right? Like, you don't know. It's easy to look 6 or 7 years later and say, well, you guys should have done it this way. And yeah, okay, well, where were you 6 years ago when we weren't even sure if we had a business yet, right?
That's right.
So, that's very, very, that's very exciting. And that's true. Wait, one more question. When you had the team in Romania, did you have any developers stateside or North America?
Well, we had David, our architect, who you got to meet. And then Justin had joined us as one of the first members of building out that in-house team. And then in partnership, in parallel with the time that we were meeting with you and trying to figure this out, we were starting to post those job descriptions to the job boards and try and build an internal team.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
you've got a great team now, and the meetings, I think that's, one of the things that I try and convey to clients that are struggling is to have those meetings 2-3 times a week. Make sure that the teams are touching base and sharing what challenges they're coming up against, so there's no surprises. And I find your team, led by you, do that really, really well.
Well, that's good to hear. Sometimes I feel like there's just no perfect meeting. Either it's drifting off abstract and going a little too long, or maybe you're not getting all the feedback you need from people, and then they're walking out of the meeting talking to each other about things you wish they would have said in the meeting. So that's good feedback, and I think SimplyPHP's even been a big help there. You guys have either, sometimes it's within the meeting and said, hey, can we take this offline, or we need to make sure we talk about this, or outside, so you're not hurting any feelings, getting in touch with me and saying, hey, we could be improving these check-ins this way, and giving us some good notes on things we can constantly do to improve that.
And that's awesome. And that it's harder to take place if there aren't any meetings at least a couple times a week. So they're really great. They're really great and very well led.
Thanks. They're key to keeping everybody moving in the same direction for sure.
Yeah, there's no surprises, right?
Right.
Why didn't you tell me that yesterday when we had the meeting? So now, of course, the burning question in this environment is COVID-19, right? So that must have affected Fulton Fish Market, the actual market, Fulton Fish Market online, your developers, your team. I'd love to talk about that a little bit. If you
Yeah, it's affected us in so many ways. It's I'm thinking about where to even start. If you just start within the market, there's restrictions now on moving around in New York City. All of our guys have to carry letters. There's huge restrictions, although food production and selling is an essential service. There's tons of safety measures now we have to be cautious of. So we have to split our shifts, because if one person gets sick on a shift, that entire shift is supposed to be quarantined for 14 days. So at the same time, we've had to reduce our staff or split these shifts, and so be somewhat understaffed due to that, because we can't have everybody in one spot and risk losing everybody if one person gets sick. Our consumer business has grown through the roof. So at the beginning of COVID, restaurants were about 80% of our business.
Restaurants were 80%. So 80% of the people ordering online were all restaurants.
We're all restaurants. And now, as you can imagine, restaurants are in a pause mode, and so we're not seeing as many sales come from there. But the consumer business on a daily basis has grown by more than 10x, to the point that for the first time in our history, we're putting quotas on our checkout where it's, we're telling customers, hey, we can do X or X, these many hundreds of orders a day. And once we hit that point, you got to pick for shipment the day after that. And at one point, you couldn't pick a shipping date on our site for over a week and a half out.
Wow.
So with that, and we still were filling those days up. But what that tells me is, if we can get our ops capacity up, and SimplyPHP is helping us with a lot of these projects to get more and more seafood out the door in a smarter way. There's just huge demand there. And even now, as things are starting to open up, the consumer demand seems to be sticking. We're keeping a lot of those customers who tried us out because they couldn't go shop locally, because I think some of them are seeing the difference in getting this stuff fresh a day out of the water from the market. And then the restaurants are starting to come back online. So it's creating tons of stress, because there's a huge opportunity there. I mean, all of a sudden, this has been a trigger for us in many ways to launch to a whole new level of growth that we couldn't even imagine. Maybe a year, getting to a level of growth that we thought would be, this time next year, has compressed itself into the past few weeks.
That's right, because if I'm not mistaken, FultonFishMarket.com has grown every single year consistently, whatever percentage, but it has always grown.
Yeah.
But now, the COVID situation, so 10x, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. And what's interesting is much of the tech team between Romania and working with SimplyPHP has been remote. We've got a couple guys that are in New York, and they can be on site when needed to on requirements or testing new capabilities. But we were always one of the teams in the business that was pretty spread out, with most of the business focused in New York and meeting in person, working in person. And now that everybody's working remote, they're learning a little bit from us, the best ways to use Slack and a lot of the collaboration tools
nice.
forward and move things forward with all of us working remotely. So that's been interesting to see that. Yeah.
Would you say that now, because a little bit earlier you said that you had clients having to wait instead of the next day delivery that you're famous for, the clients had to wait a week or a week and a half. Now, is that the technology that was causing that problem, or was it the boots on the ground? Like, what was the?
It's a both. It's so that, in operations, it's people and process supported by systems. So, in physical space. So the huge amount of growth we saw in the last few weeks, I don't even know if we had enough, if we had enough people and all the technology ideas for improving throughput in operations and on all the right process, I don't even know if we would have had the physical space. So as part of this, we've accelerated and we're about to move into more space in the market that we're getting from them with more freezers and more coolers to keep product on hand, and more fabrication stations to fillet the fish and scale the fish, and more packing stations to put the seafood in boxes.
Wow.
And then with all of this, the learning of how technology can make us smarter has been huge. So one project that SimplyPHP just helped us launch yesterday it's called Orders Ready to Pack. And it's a new display in the market that shows them the consolidated view of, hey, here's a 6-item order, and the last one just went through getting cryovac and barcoded, so it's ready to go. And it's going to save a few seconds, maybe a minute or two on every order, instead of them doing as much hunting as they had to consolidate all the items for an order. Those seconds and minutes add up when you're doing hundreds of orders a day. And so that's just one example of about 10 things that we've done in the past few weeks, and a list of about 100 that the business has come up with to say, hey, if you can do this, this, and this, and changes to the system, we can get even more seafood out with the people we've got, or not have to add people as fast.
That's incredible. That's fantastic news. I'm glad that things are advancing technologically as well. But now a question. So let's say that I'm a consumer, I'm in California, and I order salmon, shrimp, cod, so different types of fish, combination with seafood. So can you take me through, and this is kind of what interests me, is like, what is the process? Now, I know you have, let's say, 30 different stores or suppliers on the fish market floor.
In the market, yeah.
And so if I'm looking for salmon, so I just got an order online of salmon, cod, and shrimp, for example.
Sure.
How does the person know where to go, to which market to go see, which person to go see? Does he have to yell it? Because I saw a few videos on YouTube about Fulton Fish Market. There's a lot of action there, right?
It's a lot of action. It's
colorful people.
A lot of people call it the stock market of fish. Everybody's out for themselves in that negotiation. So you got to have really smart, experienced people, fishmongers, fish buyers who have been in this business for decades. It's probably a tougher job than anything we do in IT, who can gauge the right price, can gauge the quality. Somebody may be trying to give you stuff that's 5 days old and it's ready for the dumpster. And if you don't know what you're looking for when you're looking at that box of fish, somebody may give you some beautiful fish on top, and under 3 layers of ice is the stuff they're trying to get rid of.
Okay.
So we see the system that we've built on the back end, it's bringing orders in from Magento constantly, those order items. Okay. And there's buyers right now watching those orders flow into that back end system, and they're on the phone with people in the market, in some cases making deals in advance, saying, hey, we know we're going to need this much shrimp tonight, this much cod, and this much salmon. Can you give us this type of price on it? We've now got enough volume that we're doing forecasting. So we don't even know what Tony might order today to get shipped out tomorrow, but we know that for the last year, we've seen these type of orders come in on a Wednesday, and we better make sure we got at least this much shellfish, haddock, and salmon on hand or ready to go for tonight. So some portion of that buying is happening right now. The rest, maybe more than half of it, will start to happen at 1 a.m. when the market opens. So the guys will walk out on their tablets, looking at the product that we still haven't negotiated for, and going to those vendors. And what we do is we can capture the price history from now the past 5 years of who we bought what product from in the past, from what vendor, and what was the quality of it. So that system on their tablet makes a recommendation of the first vendor to go talk to, who we think is going to have the best quality of that product based on our history in the market in the past. So sort of like, imagine looking at the stock quotes at the New York Stock Exchange. These tablets are showing them, hey, you should be able to get this from this price from this seller. Start with them first. here's the next one you'd go to if maybe they're not out, or they're not giving you the price that you think you should get. Or you're now smart enough to say, hey, this is what you sold it to us for last time, or this is what we know someone else is probably going to sell it to us for, and use that in your negotiation with them. And so between the pre-buys and the buys they're doing real time in the market, what used to be 1 or 2 truck forklifts a night of product coming down to our stall is now a constant stream of back and forth as vendors are bringing product down to our area of the market for us to get it out the door. It's amazing.
Does the founder ever go back to the fish market to see those skeptics and say,
Jody,
what do you think of me now?
Jody loves the market. He is still very involved in the business. He's president of the company. He's constantly out with customers, and he's in the market, I would say, probably once a week. He's New York based, and he loves to.
Nice.
I think he likes to walk around the floor and talk to all these folks who told him it wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
And look how much we're buying from you now.
Yeah. You see that line of forklifts going by? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. There's too much forklift noise going on.
And, with that, it's interesting with that, with the huge growth we've had, what used to be a tough negotiation with a lot of these guys is getting a lot easier because we're buying in volume. So, of course, we get better prices that way. And they know that we're going to be back tomorrow night, the night after, the night after, the night after, and they want to keep that relationship, which is great.
And they better give you the best fresh product as well because, like you said, I'm not like you're the only game in town, but you're a major player on that market floor now. So I want to be nice.
From a niche of a little thing in the corner to one of the biggest buyers in the market now.
Wow, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
What a great story.
It's fun.
And it's a major part because of you, Lincoln, because honestly, man, the way that you took over that team and the way that you lead everyone and get things done, like what you're saying about when the market is saying, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? You get it done. You get it done quick. And
thanks for saying that. It's a team effort for sure. There's so many parts and pieces of expertise that have to happen here on the Magento side and on the back end side. And we've got SimplyPHP people that are working in both of those spots for us, helping us continue to add new capabilities to the front end Magento sites. And we've got 2 of them or 3 of them. And then on the back end custom built ERP system, we've got your team members there helping us continue to improve capacity in operations and get smarter about our buys and all of that stuff. So it's been a team effort, and SimplyPHP has been there to take as much credit as anybody else as we've grown. It's exciting.
Oh, that's awesome. And, the team members enjoy working with you and your team as well. Meetings are awesome. Such great collaboration. Yeah. And that's totally needed, right? That's the way it's got to be.
Yeah, I think so. I see that. It's not, working with the SimplyPHP team, it's not just, hey, tell us what you guys want. They've worked with us long enough now and have a good enough understanding of the business that as we're talking about ideas, they're saying, hey, what about? And maybe we should. And have you thought about this? And bringing us some things that we haven't thought about. For example, we recently improved our packaging enough to go to 2-day shipping, and the product still gets there fresh, and the customer saves a lot of money on shipping. And
beautiful. That's because of improvements on the packaging?
That's because of improvements on the packaging. Okay. And then the SimplyPHP person, Julian, if I'm allowed to say his name, had great ideas about how to interface our backend system we call WMS to FedEx to do a better job of getting that API configured and printing out the right labels depending on the customer's delivery date and the shipping method that they've accepted when they checked out. And what he's done for us isn't just tell us what you want, but hey, have you guys thought about this? Because the FedEx communication can work this way or that way, and it's been huge. And it's opened up a lot of opportunity for us to either capture a little more profit on every order or make it more for the customer, or maybe split the difference with them.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Great.
How do you do you have any anxiety now? Looking down the road and saying, okay, once the city starts getting open, because I know, like, for example, here in Montreal, the restaurants are not open yet,
right?
But they're starting to talk about it, right? So how do you feel that's going to impact? Do you have any anxiety related to, all of a sudden you're going to get all of your restaurant customers back and you're still going to have those consumers? Because I know that, I've ordered and I'm not going back to, I'm definitely going to continue ordering because there's a lot of stuff that you have that I can't necessarily go out and get at the corner. So I don't think your consumers are going to go away. Um, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about the rush of all the restaurants coming back?
Yeah, we're scared about it because we know it's a huge opportunity and we don't want to mess it up. And so, like I say, we're doing so many things right now with the market, technology, and process, or space, or adding people to be ready for this and to be ahead of it, because we already see in the last few weeks the restaurant orders starting to creep back up from the parts of the country. It's interesting. You start to see the parts of the country gradually opening. Oh, here's orders coming from Texas. We hadn't seen those in a while. Still none from this state because they're in lockdown. And so we're really accelerating. I mean, I was just slacking with back and forth with folks about this new space, the technology we're going to need there. They're adding a new freezer because we see that that's what's going to happen. And shame on us if we're not ready for it. And we've got all these orders coming back to us from the restaurants, tons of these consumers who tried us out who are going to stay, and we're not there. So it's funny. You say, can't wait to grow, can't wait to grow, can't wait to grow. And then you're like, wow, I wasn't ready for the tidal wave coming at you. And it's funny with the COVID, obviously so many people are struggling, trying to figure this out. So many businesses are trying to make sure they can weather the storm. And we've had parts of the storm to weather, but I think we're an example of where, and I'm sure there's probably tons of others, there's opportunity within all this too. As you learn what's working and what's not, and people get a little smarter from some of this, we're an example of where there's been a lot of opportunity also.
Absolutely, absolutely. And knowing your team, you guys will be ready for when the restaurants open back up. So Fulton Fish Market moved from its old location was it the Bronx?
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, the Fulton Fish Market used to be in Manhattan, and they moved to the Bronx. I think it was 2008 or in 2008. So there's a few problems with Manhattan. The market was growing, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So getting trucks in and out of there was a problem. The facility was so old that it wasn't a fully refrigerated from end to end facility. So there was tons of ice consumption to keep the product fresh and cold. The South Bronx, where the market's moved to now, it's 5 or 6 football fields. It's bigger than the Statue of Liberty. It's just a huge facility end to end. It's refrigerated and completely enclosed. And the South Bronx is also home to the country's largest fresh meat market, fresh flower market, fresh produce market. Now the country's largest, the world's largest by assortment, fresh seafood markets there. It's really created this hub of what's called food technology. And distribution improvements and all of that everybody gets to reap the benefits from. You know, a little bit of the legend too was when the fish market was in Manhattan, it was run by the mob, he believed. And a big part of this wasn't just to improve all the logistics and the quality of the market, but to get the mob. So when I wanted to go into the market and get my badge to allow me to go into the market, I had to fill out about a 20-page application that included all my work history, family and friends they could contact. They want to try and really keep organized crime out of the fish market. So
I remember when we first met. Well, when we first met on the phone and we were talking about potentially working together, I had never heard of Fulton Fish Market. So when I knew you were coming to visit us, I went and I got a YouTube. I did a binge watch of Fulton Fish Market YouTube videos.
Nice.
It was fascinating. The most fascinating thing was the people on the market floor. Those characters, those fish marketers that have been there for like 20 years, 30 years, and
it takes a special breed of person. They've all got nicknames for each other. They all razz each other. You know, if you were to listen to them talk and you didn't know that they were all best friends, you'd think they were about to start punching each other out. And you think about the type of person it takes to love this business enough to be working midnight to 7 a.m. They've structured their whole life around that, providing such an essential service. And it's really a unique place and experience. And like you say, it's their characters. They've all just got a personality, and it's a fun thing.
It's incredible. I could, and a lot of them say, well, I came here, I thought I was going to work here for a couple of weeks, or I thought I was going to work here over the summer. And, 30 years later, I'm still here. So I guess there's something that attracts them to that place.
Yeah, we're lucky to have one of the legends working for us. We recruited him away from another part of the market. His name's Bobby Tuna. He's been
Bobby
working.
Tuna.
He's
Nice.
been working in the market back when it was in Manhattan, and now in the market with us since just after the just after the Vietnam War, when he got home from the Vietnam War. He's
Oh,
been
wow.
written in the New Yorker and the New York Times, and when you get the chance to walk around the market with him, you can't go 5 feet without someone else coming up and chit chatting and telling war stories about what happened 10 or 15 years ago. It's great.
Oh wait, so if I order online before 1 a.m., so that means Bobby Tuna is the one that's going and picking out my salmon.
You've got a great chance that Bobby
Good
Tuna's the
chance.
one out there buying your fish.
That's
And we
awesome.
like to send him out to buy because they don't mess with him because they know he knows his stuff.
There you go, right? If I went to the market, I would get clipped. Like, I would pay like probably 10 times more than Bobby Tuna would, right?
That's right.
That's awesome.
That's right.
That is great. So last question about this. So the new South Bronx location, do they have room for you all to continue expanding? Like, is there someone saying, hey, that's okay, this is the last 500 feet you're going to take, and then you're done type of thing?
Yeah. So it's interesting. The market's still big and bustling, but it's not growing. So when they moved into that space, they left, I'd say, maybe on just under 1/4 of it open for expansion of new vendors and participants in the market. And that
Okay.
hasn't been taken up yet.
Good.
Other than us, we're the ones who
Yeah.
have eyes on it, and we're going to the market and saying, look, these guys are all doing great, but they're not growing the way we are. You guys had this extra capacity in the market reserved for new vendors or other people who grow. We're the ones who are growing.
Yeah. Got to roll with the punches.
Yeah. So negotiating with them to grab that space. It's interesting, the rest of the market is was very much a wholesale and restaurant, is very much restaurant and wholesale business. You and I can go in there and buy, and consumers can go in and buy, but they focus on restaurants and on wholesale. And obviously they're struggling in this time because they didn't have the consumer business like we did to make up for it. So they're excited about opening back up.
Oh yeah, that's true. That must be that must have impacted them.
Yeah,
quite a bit.
which has made us even more valuable to them. In many ways, we probably saved a few of them because we're buying so much from them now through this crisis, and giving them, probably part of their buffer to keep themselves alive on the way through this.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. So what is next for Lincoln? What's I know you're wrapping up at that Fulton Fish Market.
I've always had the dream to do my own thing, to be my own boss. And when I left my last job, I led IT at a company called Seventh Generation. I heard about this. The former CEO I worked with at another company and couldn't resist to sign up and be a part of this. And but we just got a new CEO in February, a former leader over at Fresh Direct who's joined us. And I said, boy, this is my chance. I've got to find the right time. If I keep waiting for the next project to end, I will never go. There's always the next project.
There's never a good time, right?
Yeah. But, I feel so good about making the change, not just for myself, but for where the team's at. We have a strong team in place, of which SimplyPHP has been a huge part of building and is a part of today. We've brought a lot of people on board now with an in-house team. So this new person who's taking over soon is going to be in such a good spot to continue to accelerate our growth and support it, in large thanks to you guys. And for myself, I don't know, and I'm excited to not know. My first plan is to take a sabbatical, somewhere between 3 weeks and 3 months of no phone, no Slack, no email, catch up on some reading, sort through my mind, my head and my heart about what I want to do next, what that next business venture might be. I've got a great resume in technology, so I might build on that, or you might find me being a farmer at this point. I've got to think.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I just
are you really like you? So you know what? I think that's a great idea. So the person you are now can't really make a decision on what you're going to do. So you need to take that 3 weeks to a month or 2 months to get rid of everything, and then Lincoln's going to be left. And then Lincoln will decide.
I've got a Google sheet where I've got all the possibilities of, business ideas, ventures, innovations I think could be valuable. And I'm supposed to be whittling that down because my transition's been planned for months now. And every morning I wake up and I've got 5 new ones that I'm adding to the list. So the list keeps getting longer. Great ideas. I've got to start to whittle that down. And like you say, I got to clear my head, all this and really just sort through it. And I'm lucky I'm in a spot to have the luxury to do that. And I'm excited about it.
That's fantastic. So that list on that Google sheet, is it all technology / business based?
Yeah, I'd say about 80% of it's technology. I think the other spot that I'm thinking a lot about is consumer branded products in the food or sustainable sort of consumer packaged goods space. I had a great experience at 7th Generation, seeing how you could go head to head against the big boys like Procter & Gamble and Unilever with products that delivered something of value to the consumer beyond just price on the shelf and fancy commercials. And I see it even at Fulton Fish Market. Here we are taking a fish, the fish business is hundreds or thousands of years old, but we're coming at consumers with a very focused value proposition that costs them more, but hey, it's fresh and we're telling you where it's coming from, and it's coming from, sustainable fisheries, and it's a different product than what's frozen, and people are drawn to that. So I've got a lot of ideas too that are obviously would need technology to support them, but they're around a consumer product and maybe niches that already seem to be conquered by big brands, but I think there's real opportunity to bring somebody a different value equation than just the price tag on the shelf.
Awesome. That's great. So you gotta whittle that list down to the top 3.
I do. And if it requires any PHP development, I know who I'm calling.
I was thinking more you're going to get into like a boat building or a restoration type of, maple syrup tour. Vermont association there,
Well, some of these ideas do have a Vermont association because Vermont's great. It's sort of like Quebec. It's just got such a good image of, a place to be and to have products from. So it'd be great to take advantage of that. Because I've been here 20 years now and got a good feel for some of the things that are going on here that are exciting to share with the rest of the country.
Oh yeah, Vermont, I'm telling you, is such a beautiful part of the United States. And I think if I would move and live in the US anywhere, I think Vermont would be on my top 3 for sure.
Well, good. That's great to hear. Of course, you're used to winters. You guys know what they're all about. So when they hear you, it's cold in the wintertime, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And the people too. The people make a big difference.
Yeah. Well, Montreal is exciting because for us in Vermont, that's the big city. Like that's where we go closer than Boston, nice meals, shopping, other than Walmart, let's go to Montreal. So,
yeah. And if you're 17 or 18, pretty good chance you're getting into the bar.
All my kids have had adventures in Montreal that I don't even want to know about.
Yeah, exactly.
They've all had their Montreal adventures, and I try to stay oblivious because I know it.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. Well, Lincoln, thank you so much for taking the time. And like I said, it would have been even better to go to Vermont. And I was already in Vermont once with you, but to do this podcast in Vermont would have been great. But who knows? Maybe we will do another one in the years to come, and we'll be sitting on that log with that log cabin in the background, chatting about something else.
I think we will, and I hope so. And thank you, not just for the time today, but for all the partnership from SimplyPHP. I mean, really, we would not be where we are today without the support of your team. You guys have been fantastic for us, just great partners. The proof is not just in the work we've delivered, but that we keep asking you to help us with more and more projects and bring more of your team members on to help. So thanks for everything.
That's great. That's great, Lincoln. It's a pleasure to work with you and your team, and continued success for yourself and for Fulton Fish Market. The sky's the limit, and that's a great news story.
Thanks a lot, Tony.
All right.